Hi, everyone. As you're coming in, welcome. Thanks for waiting. We were behind the scenes getting everything ready and perfect for you. So as you come in, you'll see on my screen, there is a Padlet for you to start adding to, and the Padlet is located in a Canvas course. So the bit.ly and or going to the Canvas course directly and finding the page in the module will get you to that Padlet. And get ready, you're gonna take a selfie and add your opinion, whether you prefer ocean, lake, or pool. And I should say you can't unmute yourself. So if you do have questions, please put it in the chat. And we'll repeat this later. Please don't send the chat directly to me. We have a super full session and I probably will not be checking the chat at all.
So Barbara, can you just repeat the instructions for the Padlet?
Absolutely.
We'll do that as people join.
Yeah. So on my screen, you'll be able to see their instructions for getting to this Padlet. The Padlet is embedded inside a Canvas course. So you can get here either by using the bit.ly that's on the screen. Make sure it's case sensitive. So make sure that you're using a capital E and then lowercase everything else. Or you can go directly into the Canvas course. It's the SUHSD-PD course. You'll click modules, and then you'll click the 5 E's in Canvas Let's Connect, just like it shows on the screen. And then you should see the selfie, or I'm sorry, the Padlet, the selfie time Padlet below. And now that I said that I'm not going to chat, I actually, I will put that page in the chat as well. So I know it is 9:01, but we have a full house and we're about halfway there in terms of participants. So we're going to wait just a little bit to get a few more, several 50 people in.
So we've got a couple of people saying they're struggling with bypassing the screen that you have up on projecting on our screen.
Yeah, I see that. So, so I think, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. So if your Zoom is taking over your entire screen, you can go out of full screen and then you'll be able to click on other things. So at the top, there should be a little thing that says exit full screen. So you can exit full screen and then have the Zoom screen be a smaller window, and you'll want to be able to do that. And then if you click on chat in your Zoom menu, I just put the link. Oh, it just says to everyone in the waiting room. Let me put it to everyone in the meeting.
I can do that for you, Barbara.
I had it copied already. So I just put the link directly to the Padlet page in Canvas into the chat. So you don't have to go through other channels to get there.
And it looks like lots of people are taking their selfies, which is great. Don't forget to take your selfie.
All right, I'm gonna push out the link to Barbara's page one more time for the newly admitted participants. So if you open up the chat, you will see a link, and that link will bring you to the same page that Barbara is projecting on Zoom. And then our first ask is for you to participate in the Padlet. So you'll decide, what do you prefer, ocean, lake, or pool? And then under each column, you're gonna add an extra box with your name. And then there is a little button with a camera on it, so you can actually take the selfie through the Padlet. All right, we're about 2/3 of the way.
I keep having to stop myself from scrolling down to look at the Padlet. I really want to look, but I'm keeping the directions up.
I have to say, Ocean is quite popular right now.
Very nice.
Daisy, can you just repeat how you take a photo in the Padlet for everybody?
Yeah, so once you have decided whether you prefer ocean, lake, or pool, you click the plus sign, and then it'll add a little box for you. You can type in your name, and then if you kind of move around the box with your name, you'll see a little logo of a camera appear. And so if you click on that, you can actually just take a selfie through the Padlet app.
Thank you.
You can try your best. If this is, already a hindrance to you, it is okay. Just give it a try. And if it doesn't work, we would still at least like to see your name added to the Padlet. So the Padlet is actually already, if you're on the screen that Barbara is on, it's embedded into this Canvas module. So you can actually click on where you see the Padlet. Okay, so I'm gonna push out the link again. So to access the Padlet, you're gonna click on the link that I just sent out. And then if you scroll down, you will see this blue box on your screen that says selfie time. And then you'll see a plus sign under ocean, lake, and pool. You're gonna click on whichever one suits your interest, and then add your name. And if possible, add your photo, but if not, not a big deal. That's not the purpose and intention of this entire session.
And it looks like we have 75 people so far.
I gotta say, lake is kind of catching up with ocean. Although ocean has a slight lead, I would say. Oh my gosh, I love it. And Elena added a GIF of a wave under ocean.
and Barbara, again, just a couple of people are just frustrated with just figuring out where we are. And so when you log in, if you want to just go to the Canvas PD page and click on modules. Yeah. So in their Canvas course, if you go to SUHSD PD and go to modules, that's where we are. And it's the very first module. Barbara's kind of pointing it out with her arrow there, 5 E's and Canvas. And she's on the Let's Connect tab. So that's where we are.
Yeah, you'll actually see this screen when you get there. So it doesn't take you directly to Padlet itself. It takes you to the page within the Canvas course. So you'll need to scroll down until you see the Padlet. And then you should be able to add to the Padlet directly in the embed. So for example, if I wanted to add another one, if I just can't decide between ocean and pool, I could add another one here.
Wow, some of you are growing out those beards, I can see.
Yeah, if you just add your name, that's fine too. And you can, add a heart to somebody if you wanted to, right? We've got, oh my gosh, so many amazing, amazing, beautiful faces. Pretty much first thing in the morning. For summer, this is earlier than first thing in the morning, right? And you guys are all here on your summer learning. So this is amazing, super fantastic. I think it kind of sounds like the ding dongs have slowed at least. So I think we have, our participants are more or less here. So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, so I'm just going to spend a quick second. We're going to do introductions in a minute, but again, welcome everybody. It is just overwhelmingly exciting to have so many people come for this PD on the second day of summer. So we're just super excited to have you. I just wanted to really quickly point out our icebreaker. It was an idea that we borrowed from Caitlin Tucker. She wrote a blog post about it, and there is a link underneath the Padlet to it. It's just a really fun, I think, cool icebreaker activity. We decided to go with the summer theme as we are about to enter into summer, and hopefully, despite all that's going on in the world, you will be able to have some time in some body of water that you enjoy this summer. So we thought this would be a good way to kind of welcome everyone in. It's also actually a really nice way, so you can kind of scroll through and see who's here and get a sense of who your colleagues are. It works great. She used this as a beginning of the year activity. And if you are someone like me, who the older I get, the harder it is for me to remember my students' names at the beginning of the school year, this is super helpful because you have the student's name, a visual image of them, and she usually suggests you have maybe 2 or 3 questions you give the kids that they could answer in the selfie. You could have them categorize themselves, or they just could put their name, a picture, and then maybe their happy place or their favorite place to go to relax or their most prized possession. So it's just kind of a good idea for an icebreaker. So we thought we would share that with everybody. And so I just wanted to introduce that. And again, if you want to see more about it, read about Caitlin Tucker's blog post, and it's embedded in the module, so you can read it at your leisure. Okay. So then I'll just start introductions. I am mostly here to facilitate. You'll find out the chat and to hopefully answer all of your chat questions. But my name is Elizabeth Placencia. I am an instructional coach. I have the super fun privilege of getting to work with PE and VPA teachers, as well as working on integrated ELD. And I am an English teacher of 20 years prior to being an instructional coach. And I'm just super excited to be here and to see all of you guys.
My name is Daisy Young. I am the science instructional coach. I am also here to facilitate because Barbara has come up with such a great session that 97 people signed up. So I will mostly be helping out with kind of the reflection pieces, so we think about how this session can tie in with equity and some of the major pieces that we're hoping to address in this session.
All right, thanks Elizabeth and Daisy. And I am Barbara Reckless, Instructional Technology Specialist here at the district. And I've worked with several of you on all things tech and specifically, especially Canvas. So I'm really excited to share some strategies to kind of bridge that divide between the tech and these engagement strategies, this lesson design piece. So we will continue through here. So just a real quick, a note on navigating. Now that you've gotten into this Canvas course, everything that we're doing today is inside a single module in the course. So if you scroll down to the very bottom of the screen, you'll see a next and a previous button, and I'm just going to continue clicking next as we go through. You muted.
I know. Sorry about that. So I just want to really quickly walk you through the norms today. You are indeed all muted. That's just because, again, we had 97 people signed up, so it was a super full house. But we will be working in breakout rooms a couple of times, and so we just want to make sure to ensure equity of voice in small groups. Canvas can be overwhelming for some people, especially when you're learning new things. And Barbara has done a superb job of integrating a lot of different things like Padlets into a Canvas module. So we just want you to maintain a positive attitude and growth mindset for yourself. All of us are learning in this world of distance learning. You can do it. If you can't figure out something today, feel free to circle back to us and we can help support you. Next is, it's super nice to see you with your video camera on if possible. We know sometimes you have connectivity issues, so turning your video off might help. But if possible, it's really nice to actually, when you're presenting, just like with your kids, to see faces and to know who's there in this world of virtual learning. I already talked about that you'll be muted, but that ties into the next one. If you do have questions, feel free to use the chat feature as questions arise. You can send questions out to everyone if you feel like the whole benefit would group. If you have individual questions, feel free just to message me. If I don't know the answer, I'll take note of it and I'll make sure I get an answer back to you. For the most part, Barbara is actually going to be hands off the chat because she's going to be running most of the session, and it's just a little too hard to keep up with the chat and run the session. So just kind of be aware of that. And last but not least, we know that sometimes life happens in your living room, and so cameo appearances from family members and roommates might happen. We get it, don't stress over that. So we're just, again, super excited you're here. Thank you for your positivity. Thank you for being here. And I'm super impressed this is the way you've chosen to kick off the summer. Thank you.
So before we begin into the 5 E's, we as instructional coaches felt like it was really important to set some intentions for ourselves for this week, especially with our current reality. Some of you who have already participated in sessions yesterday have seen this message or some version of this message already, but we really feel that it bears repeating given the context that we're in now. So I'm gonna read this to you. This is our statement from the PD department, from your coaches to you. We recognize that the protests in response to the murder of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and countless other Black lives go beyond police brutality. We also recognize that the protests extend to the education system, and the inequities in our district are no exception. We believe that teaching can be an act of social justice. We invite you to take action with us as educators and community members to continue to ensure that students from marginalized communities are heard and valued. Our professional development offerings have always focused on equitable teaching practices. Still, we must work harder to make that connection more explicit and to strive for anti-racist teaching and learning throughout our district. We're here to support you in this work, and we welcome your feedback as we move forward beyond the protests. You'll see that there's a hyperlink in this to action steps, which is actually the next slide. This is always going to be available to you in this module. These just happen to be action steps that we as coaches have committed to taking. This is just a start. There are plenty of other action steps that you can think about, and you can just do a very simple internet search and you'll find a lot. But this is, we believe, kind of the focus that we're gonna take moving forward. So we're gonna kind of bring this message back a few times just to link the 5 E's and maybe like a 6th E, which would be equity, into this session today. So Barbara, you can move on to the next if you would like. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna keep track of kind of what your thoughts are, what your intentions are through another app. It's called Mentimeter. So if you haven't ever used Mentimeter, it's great. I just used it in my first PD session yesterday and it was very well received. So what we would like you to do is you can use your phone for this, or you can open up a new tab in your browser, but you're gonna go to www.menti.com, which is listed on the top of the screen right now. And then you're gonna type in the code. 44, 52, 22. Okay, and then you're gonna see basically the same thing. Well, you're gonna basically have a chance to think about one of these questions. So you don't have to answer all of them. And Barbara's showing you what it looks like on your phone if you wanna use your phone for this. And just think about which of these questions you are in the right mind space to answer and reflect on. So you have a few options. You can think about, what is your role as an educator? Who has a voice in your classroom? Why do you think that is? Whose stories are told in your classroom and why? Who is represented in your curriculum and why? Who has the power in the classroom? And what would it look like to have students equitably engaged in your classroom? And so we're hoping to keep this kind of at the forefront, even though this is a 5E session. We know that, 5Es are great as a tool. I think you will most likely get a lot of tech out of this, but to consider that this is also a tool that could be used to increase equitable access to curriculum. So we'll give you a minute on menti.com, and thank you for those of you who are typing into the chat the code that you're going to type in. So www.menti.com, and then type in the code 445222. I will say that some of these questions are a little bit heavier, some of them are a little bit more kind of on the mild side, and just kind of think about what you are able to access right now given the circumstances. I know that it's kind of a difficult time for a lot of us. And if you can't think of something right now, that's okay. We're going to come back to this page a few times within the session. And Barbara, I think while people are typing, maybe we'll give them 30 more seconds and then we can move on. It looks like about half of you have had a chance to type in your response to Mentimeter. So you can keep this tab open and you can refer to it anytime during this. So as long as it's kind of open in a different browser or a tab, you can always go back to this. But I think it's probably time to continue. So thank you for setting some intentions for today.
All right, so today's objectives, we are just to pivot a little from that, we are going to learn how to blend lesson design principles with Canvas logistics. So just what it says here. The whole goal here is to make your content as easy to access for your students as possible. Make it so that your students know how to get to the assignments, they know what you expect from them, and hopefully you'll include some engaging activities as well. So the question that you are asking yourself right now is, there's two parts to it. The second part's the bigger part, but it's really how can you build more engaging and accessible lessons online? And so what you'll be thinking about throughout and working on is you're going to begin to craft a mini unit that you plan on teaching in the fall. You won't complete it by any means, but you'll begin this work today. You'll think about this topic. So right now, kind of think about one of the first units that you're planning on teaching or something that you are working on in your summer work, getting ready, and use that as your guide to kind of think about tools and strategies as we go through each one of these. It's the 5E lesson design, but we've really added in 2 extra E's, so it's sort of the 7E lesson design. So we'll be going from that. And I actually used the 5E lesson design to design this module, so it's all very meta. So I will be providing you a couple of templates later, and this is one of them. So I use the same template that I'm giving you. This is the student-facing template. and built in today's objectives. So the contents of the session are here, and then I linked it to each of the Canvas pages that we'll be working from. So you can see what we're doing for each of the E's. And then I've also included a checklist, and on the classroom one, it would say, you know, assignments or student to-do list, but here it's participant to-do list. So there are a few things that we'll be doing throughout the session. We've already done one of them. You've participated in a Mentimeter for equity. And so what this does is it provides a roadmap for your students so that they would know what to expect from your unit. And in an online space, a lot of times this won't be a daily lesson plan like we're doing right now. This might be for an entire week, right? So that way it's more streamlined and you're not pushing things out to your students every day and getting them overwhelmed. It's nice to, I'm going to encourage you to try thinking about doing this once per week rather than once a day, so that it's a little bit easier for students to manage. Because remember, they have 6 to 7 different classes that they're trying to juggle and manage at one time. So making it as streamlined as possible for them is going to really help. Okay, so we're going back to Mentimeter, and let me switch it up so that you don't see the same thing. So you're going to the same exact code. Let me just get back in because I have 2 pages on here. And so you're going to the same menti.com, same code. Let's see. And let me just go to the next slide in here. I made my window a little too small for myself. Sorry about that. Here we go. Let's see if this works now. Okay, so if you go back in and use the code, you should see a message that says something about, at the very top, it'll say the presenter has changed the slide, and you can click go to slide. So I'm gonna click that on my phone right now. Let's see if I can get it to actually show. You see how it says go to slide at the top? I'm gonna click that. And then you'll see this. So what you're gonna do now is you're looking at these E's. So we're just looking at these 5 E's rather than the, or these 6 E's rather than the 7th. And you are going to type in the E that is speaking to you right now. It doesn't mean you're locked in and that's your favorite E of all time, but you're putting that E in, whatever is speaking to you. So I'll give you another about 30 seconds to put in your E. Okay, now let's see if it works on here. Otherwise, I'm going to go in. All right. So what's happening here is it automatically generates this word cloud. So you can see it start to change as people are entering words. And I specifically waited so that you wouldn't see everyone's responses and then real quick change your word. But right now it's looking like elaborate is the front runner, followed very closely by engage and explore. I mean, really, there isn't an E on here that we don't want to incorporate, right? So this is a fun way. You can do it with any word or phrase. It's best if you can keep it sort of narrow, but you can poll your class and see what they're thinking, and it updates in real time. And so what will happen is on any of these slides that show the Mentimeter, whichever Menti slide I'm on as the navigator, that's what will show in here. You may need to, click refresh in order for your Canvas screen to show these results, but you will be able to see these results moving forward. Okay, so that was, in terms of the 5 E's, that was an example of an engage exercise. So the engagement piece, that first E, is bringing in something to spark your students' interest, right? You're tapping into their prior knowledge, you're tapping into their own personal interests, you're tapping into what they care about, right? So that's part of the engagement piece. So now I'm moving on to the second E, the explore piece. Now these E's are not linear. You might not just go through a lesson step by step like that. I'm trying to, just so that I can show the E's to you, but we're gonna kind of go back and forth. So our explore E is actually exploring about the engagement piece. So we're all very intertwined here. But what I want you to do right now is I want you to think about that unit or mini unit that you thought about at the beginning. And remember, I mentioned try considering chunking those lessons into weekly mini units rather than a daily or a really long drawn out piece. It's going to be easier for your students if they have a very set, regular way to access your material. So what I want you to do is think about that unit, and then you're going to take a little bit of time to go into, I have linked here the student engagement guide. And if we could also put that link into the chat, that might help our participants. And so you're thinking about those 5 E's for student engagement in relationship to that unit that you have in your mind. And so we're going to start with just a quiet think. And then after a little bit, once you've kind of come up with some ideas, we're going to put you into breakout rooms where you're going to share these questions or your responses to these questions. So these are the things that you should be thinking about right now with your unit. What is the topic, for starters? What's your essential question in that unit? And what are you planning on doing to tap into that engagement piece? Whether it's checking prior knowledge or getting students to throw things up on a word wall or a Padlet or something else, what are you going to do for engagement? So when you are in your breakout rooms, when we get there, just make sure that you're being mindful of equity of voice. Let everybody in that breakout room share. So make sure that you're not dominating the conversation. So for right now, you're thinking about that mini unit and thinking about these questions that are on my screen. And I will be quiet and let you think. So we're finding our way back to the main session. The magic of Zoom sucks you back in automatically, even if you're not quite done. All right, we are up to 80. So while you guys were in your rooms, I did see that there was a question about technology in the chat. So I have a brief thing I just pushed into the chat now that you guys are back. And so there's that. And then let me copy this so that you know exactly where we are. Okay, so I just put into the chat where we are now, and then I'm not going to look at that anymore so that I can focus. So now that you've gone and discussed with your group and you've shared your ideas, now it's time to really kind of put those ideas down so that you can really work with them and remember them a little bit more. So if you go to the link that I put into the chat, or if you are just following along in Canvas, I just click next, and I'm now on a discussion prompt here about your explore. So this is the evaluate piece. So we explored our engage, and now we're evaluating our explore. It's all very fancy. So you are going to respond to this discussion prompt. And it's the same questions that you just discussed in your group. So it's nothing new to think about. And then once you have responded, then you can reply to another person. So initially, when you go in to respond, you're going to see it look like this. and you can click this reply button, and then you'll see the content box. And so you can type your response here. Once you've done that, you're going to click post reply, and then you'll be able to see other people's responses, and you can reply to their responses. So I'm going to give you a second to do this. I'm not going to type your response as mine. And again, I'll be quiet to let you do your discussion. Okay, so if you are still working on your discussion, don't worry, these will be here for you, so you don't have to worry that, oh no, it's not there anymore. You can respond to other people's ideas, and the nice thing about this is you can also crowdsource and you can gather ideas that you can then use, right? It's all about sharing. So be sure to at least respond positively. Hey, I really like your idea about that, especially if you're going to borrow their thoughts. So I am going to move to the next page in here. So if you're on that discussion page, you can scroll all the way down under all of the posts. So you'll have to scroll for a while given this audience, and click next. So then we'll get into the explain piece. And in the explain, I have embedded some slides into the Canvas course, which you can click through. And part of it will include a video. So I won't be showing the video because I've Edpuzzled it. So I want you to do that independently. But we breezed right over the instructional focus at the beginning. So it's good that I put it in two different places. So our instructional focus as a professional development department is to provide rigorous, engaging, standard-designed instruction with embedded language supports and meaningful technology integration. So the two pieces that are super, super, super prominent in this session are the engage and the meaningful technology integration, right? We've got those two hand in hand, but really we're looking at all of these just in this session alone. So the first thing is, how do you do this? How do you set this up in a meaningful way for your students? So I'm going to recommend that you use Canvas modules to organize your content, and consider creating a separate module for each little mini unit, maybe a week at a time if possible. And so I'm not going to play it yet because I'm going to have you guys do this. There is a video that's embedded here. If you click on this, it'll take you to the Edpuzzle video. And it's a little over 5 minutes. So you're going to watch the video and you'll see my little face, and it will pause and check for understanding periodically. So throughout the video, you'll respond to questions, or you'll see little comments that I've put in there. So you're going to take the time right now. I'm going to give you a little bit over 5 minutes to do this. Everybody's on mute, so you won't hear anything. I will mute myself. And so you can watch the video, respond to the prompts. I'm going to come back to this slide in a second when I tell you to go. And what the video will outline is the very basics of creating a module, adding a page to that module, and embedding a slide to that page. And that's it, right? That's the very bare bones minimum, and that's what the video is going to outline. Okay, then if you want to go deeper into modules, if you really want to learn more, there's a link here that takes you to slides on all kinds of things about modules that I'll let you do on your own. And then there's also information in here about videos for your students and best practices. The number one is keeping it short. There is data to support it that your engagement of your videos, as exciting as they might be, will drop off dramatically after 6 minutes. And that's really hard to do. I like to talk and talk and talk, as you can hear. And it took me a few times to get this under 5 minutes. The first time I did it, it was 9, and then 12 when I tried to shorten it. And then I finally just took things out and got it down to 5. So make sure that you're trying to make your videos as short as possible. Okay, so I will stop talking. I'm going to give you about 6 minutes to get through watching the video and responding to questions within that Edpuzzle video. So to get there, you're going to go to this page. If Daisy or Elizabeth can put the link to this Canvas page in the chat, we could also just link the Edpuzzle directly in the chat if you want to pull the link from there.
I just pushed the
He's already
Edpuzzle
done it.
link.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so I will be quiet and let everybody listen to my voice in video. You can't get enough of me. And we're going to take a moment to come back and circle back to the thoughts and ideas that you had started thinking about at the beginning of this session in regards to equity and social justice.
Oh, that's me. Okay, so we're going to go back to the Mentimeter page that we started with. So if you still have that open in your browser, I believe that Barbara has switched the slide back to the original page. So you can click on that go to slide on the top of your browser, or you could just start from scratch. Go back to menti.com, type in that code 445222. Now that you've had a chance to kind of look at the first 3 E's of the 5E model, we want you to come back just as a little bit of reflection if you want to add to your intentions or something that came up for you during this first half of our session related to equity. We're going to give you about 5 minutes for this, so you may also use this time to take a little bathroom break if you need to. All right, Barbara, I think we should all be ready to continue from here.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you guys so much. So then we are going to move on. I will click next here. So we're moving on to the elaborate portion of our E's in Canvas. And so you are going to, in the elaborate portion, you're going to dive in and start creating. So you just looked at how to set up the basics of a single module with a page in it with an embedded slides. And so you're going to practice that. You're going to set up a single module in any course that you're a teacher in. If you're using a sort of current course from last week, that's fine. You don't have to publish it so you won't confuse your students, right? If you have a Canvas course, or I'm sorry, a Sandbox course, that works, but it's not necessary. You can do this in any course as long as you're a teacher in it. So I recommend once you get into this that you open a different tab so you don't lose the course that we're navigating through here. So open a new tab, find a Canvas course where you're a teacher, and you're going to follow the steps outlined in the video. You're going to create a module, you're going to add a home page to that module, and you're going to embed slides into that home page. And they're going to be very specific slides. So if you see on this page, it links to an assignment that's also included in this module. I'm very meta. It's fine that you haven't even looked at those slides yet and you have not started them. That's okay, because you'll make changes to those slides later and those will automatically be reflected in your Canvas module, okay? You're going to be doing this in small groups so that you can help each other, because this group is way too big to address questions. So it's going to be up to your small group to help answer questions. This is going to be exciting, okay? So What I've put on here, so you have on this page, is the video without the Edpuzzle piece, right? I took out those questions, so I just linked the video itself if you want to use that for reference in here, and the slides on how to create a module are here. Okay, so you have those pieces, but what I'm going to show you, if you click on this link here, it's going to take you to the assignment that's later on in this same exact session in this module. And so what I've done with this assignment is it is set up as a Google Docs Cloud assignment, and this is what it will look like from the teacher perspective. Yours is going to look a little bit different on the student perspective, but it says complete this assignment, and then you scroll down, and this is way too small for any human to be able to see because it's trying to shrink it into this little tiny window. So don't worry about that. What you can do is you can click on the title here, and it's going to make a copy just for you. So it'll give you your very own copy of that template that you can then work off of. So just click on the title and you'll open that template. And then because it's a copy made for you, you can make any changes you want to it. For right now, you're just gonna follow the instructions from the Canvas module, which I need to now go back to. So I'm gonna click back to the home page. Good thing we have these navigation buttons in here. And then I'm gonna find, all right, we are on the build a Canvas module with homepage link. So I'm gonna go back there. Oops, next one. Actually, two later than that. I need a relink, I apologize. I should have just gone back to the main module page. Okay, so you'll get to the assignment, you'll open up those slides, you're gonna create a module, add a page, and then embed that slideshow into that module. Okay, those are the three things you're doing, and you're doing this with groups so everyone can help each other. Okay, and Daisy, are we ready to go with the groups?
I am. So you will probably most likely be in the same group. There were some people who left the session, so there were some smaller breakout rooms, so I've kind of put you in new ones. So you will be in a group with similar people. And if they're brand new people, don't worry, this is just kind of a place for you to get some help. So do we have a time limit for this piece, Barbara?
I was just checking that. I think we have about 10 to maybe 15 minutes if we really need to stretch it.
Okay.
So we'll do 10 minutes and start sending out a warning. You know, if somebody wants to come back and say, no, we need tons more time, then we can do that.
Okay, great. So I'm going to open up all the rooms and then we'll aim to get back at about 10:30. Okay.
Before we open, oh, never mind.
Oh. Sorry.
Oh, good memory.
And Barbara, I got a text message from somebody. Maybe at the end we can talk about in Teacher Orientation Week, we're going to run like Canvas basics and Canvas da-da-da, because some people are feeling like I could use some Canvas basics. And so I'll put a note in the chat too, but we might want to circle back to that too.
Okay, wonderful. So we are back up to close to full participation. So I'm going to assume that everybody is back from the breakout rooms. Welcome back. Thank you for doing that. Let's see. Okay. And so now that you're back, we're going to go on to one additional activity, if I can get in here. Okay. So we're going to do a different breakout room in a second. We're doing tons of breakout rooms because we want you guys to be able to communicate with each other, to talk, to have that smaller group feel. And the next breakout rooms are designed because we're going to do an activity that's called Thin Slides. And what this activity is it's a chance for everybody in the group to participate on one single slideshow, and everybody's going to create their own slide. And we have learned that you can only have a maximum of a certain number of people editing a single slideshow at once, and we are beyond that capacity. So that's the reason for the breakout rooms here. Otherwise, we would just do it in one big session. But the activity wouldn't work if we did it that way. So in a regular classroom setting, you could do this with just one single slideshow. You wouldn't have to break it apart, but you could. So what we're going to do here is we have 4 different links and we're going to open 4 different rooms. So please pay attention to what room you're being asked to go to. When the little pop-up comes up and says, please join breakout room number 1, 2, 3, or 4, you're going to use the link that's on the screen here for 1, 2, 3, or 4. So the links are these green ones, and it'll take you to this slideshow. And in the slideshow, everyone should be able to edit. So what you'll do, and the directions are on the first slide, the rest of the slides are completely blank, you'll follow these instructions precisely. You're going to create one, you're going to take one of the blank slides and just take one that somebody else is not on. You're going to put in your name. You're going to put in whichever of the E's is speaking to you now. It could be different from the one you put into Mentimeter earlier. It could be the same one. And then you're going to quick do a Google search and put in some kind of an image that represents that E for you. It's nothing crazy. It's just something that you're pulling in on the fly. So don't worry if it's not perfect. That's the whole point of this, is to pull an image with a word and do it quickly. Okay, Daisy, are we ready to go?
I believe we are ready to go. Vicky, I will pull you out. You can join if you want. It kind of automatically added you to a breakout room. So do we have a time limit for this one?
We do. This is going to be really short. So before we actually open up the rooms, if we could put into the chat the link to this page so everybody can click on their appropriate breakout room slides link, that would be fantastic before we go. And we're going to do this in 5 minutes. So you're just pulling a slide for yourself and adding your name, an E, and an image. And it's not going to be perfect. You don't have to discuss it with each other. The only reason you're in the rooms is so that way we can split it into 4 different groups.
All right, I'm going to put you into your rooms. Have fun. Huh, that's really interesting. So Barbara, when you click through the slide decks, you can see some of them. When I click through the slide decks on my end, I don't see, they're all white pages.
Try refreshing your Canvas page. I had to do that once in order for them to actually show up.
Okay, great.
Oh, and we should probably pull everybody back, Daisy. Oh, everybody is back.
Yes, everybody is back.
Never mind.
No problem.
Okay, so thanks for doing that. I apologize. There was one bad link in there. I had accidentally put it to preview, so I apologize for that, but we got it working. And it was really exciting from here to see what everybody was doing in their breakout rooms live. And what's great is now you have a record. So these slides are embedded in here, and you can click through and see some of the fun things that people were doing with this, with the thin slides. And so this is another example of an engaged activity, right? We're circling through all of the E's here. They're not just going in a linear pattern, where you could have your students engage with new vocabulary and what it means to them, or in the elaborate section where they're making meaning out of something that you've just learned. So think about these types of activities and how you can use them in your classes. All right, so on that note, thank you for doing that. And we are going to move on to the next piece of our session. So now we're moving on to the evaluate portion of our E's. And I previewed one of these documents earlier. There are 2 assignments in here. And the 2 assignments, there's a teacher template and then there's a student-facing template. So the teacher template is really your planning document of what you can look through in terms of coming up with all of the different E strategies. And just like that student document that you pulled up earlier to embed, if you try to do it in this little tiny window, you will, if you are like me, get super frustrated because it's way too small. So instead, you can click on the title of that document in blue, and it will make that copy for you. This is just like what it would look like for a student. They click on it, it's now their own copy. It doesn't stick their name on it. So you may want to let them know to, make an edit there so that it's their name, but that's totally up to how you want to manage that. When they submit it, you'll just be able to see these in your speed grader. So you'll open up this planning template and you'll have your own version, and then you can start to look at what tools you're going to be using, what kind of engage activity you're going to be creating. So this is your time to really dive into doing some planning. And the way that we had structured this is to give you some independent planning time. So what we'll do is we will mute ourselves. We'll try to be quiet and let you work. If you do want to work with one or two other teachers, if you could message that in the chat to Daisy, then she can try to create a breakout room for you and that one or two other teachers. If it doesn't work, we can always punt and have you leave the session altogether, create your own Zoom link with those other teachers, and then just come back, and we'll set a time to make sure that you're back by that time. But hopefully we can make it work with breakout rooms. So what you're going to be doing right now is you'll click on, again, you're in the assignment called 5 E's in Canvas Evaluate Teacher Template, and you're going to click on the title of the document to open up your own copy and then start your planning. Where I really want to emphasize the word start there, because you will not finish this in the next 10 or 15 minutes. I am going to shorten it a little. We had planned for 15 minutes and then we've run over with a few other things. So we'll check in after 10 minutes. So that's going to be at 11:10. So you're just working on kind of brainstorming ideas for that unit that you've had in the back of your mind throughout this session, and how you are going to utilize these 5 E's in that unit, and which tech tools or other tools you want to bring in to make that most effective. Elizabeth, are there burning questions in the chat before we send people off?
No, it's just more about people hoping to get placed with other people. So if you want to just kind of, again, if you are interested in being placed with somebody, you can let us know and we can move you into a breakout room. If it's easier, you can leave the session and rejoin, just coming back at what time did we, in 10 to 15 minutes. You can do that too if you'd like to.
Okay, yeah, so I'm just going to put in here, please rejoin by 11:10, just to make sure that you don't miss out on anything. So I just put that in there. If you sent any messages to me, I haven't looked at them yet. So,
and I think
we've had a lot of requests. I'm slowly putting everybody in. So just give me, I'm getting tons of requests. Sorry about that.
It's 11:10, Barbara. We also had 11:10 is 20 minutes from now. Is that fine?
We should probably do 11.
Okay, so 11 is what we meant. So I'll just type that in the chat to everybody. So we'll return together at 11, just giving you a little bit of time to get going.
Okay, so at this point, I'm going to mute. So we have 10 minutes of silence so people can work. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. Okay, we've got a few people still rejoining, but most of us are back. And so there have been a few questions about, do we submit this? And if so, that was nowhere near enough time. There's no way I'm done. And the intent was just for you to get started and to start kind of diving into this, but there certainly wasn't enough time for you to complete this, and especially to complete it in a meaningful way. So please don't feel pressure that you need to have submitted or finished this by now. We wanted you to get started, and we would love for you to continue your work with this, but this could be a longer project, and so don't feel any pressure to submit. We are not grading this. So don't think that you know, you have to do this right away, but if that helps you to kind of motivate yourself, I know I need to have that kind of pressure for me to really complete a task. By all means, you know, put that in the back of your mind and set a small deadline for yourself to submit, but do not feel pressure to do so. Before we move on, are there any other burning questions from the chat?
No, I'm just responding to a question that I love. Somebody asked how 5Es fit with the constructing meaning planning model. So I'm just responding to that. But I love that you guys are thinking about that. And so just, and I'll sum it up in the chat, but just always think about with each of these 5Es, how can you include the great stuff like language support, structured opportunities for talk, etc. Because those pieces fit in every single one of the 5Es. So I love that question.
So awesome. Okay, so even though you are not finished with the teacher planning document, I just want to move on so that you can see the next steps, which you've actually already seen. So if I click on next, then we get to the student-facing template that you embedded into your module homepage earlier. And so we're going to go back to the same document, and you can click on that link and you'll open your document. And so if you are still working on your teacher planning document, by all means, continue working on that, right? But you may kind of be doing them side by side. So you might be working on, okay, here's what I'm going to do for Engage, and then you might want to come over here and start to type that in and put in your Engage piece, right? And so you may want to do them simultaneously. That's completely up to you. Also, just know that this is here, so when you do finish your teacher planning template, then you're working on what's going to be pushed out to students. And you can, of course, edit this and revise it, and any changes that you do make to this template, these slides, will automatically be reflected in that homepage that you created in Canvas already. So the work is not, you know, you're not having to duplicate your effort there. So we're going to give you a little bit more time to continue either working on your teacher document or starting to dive into your student document. And just like the teacher document, Canvas made a copy for you. So you're working on your very own. So it works with slides and docs. So it's not one or the other. So you're continuing that work. And maybe for this one, because we are nearing the end, maybe just private message the people that you had been working with so that we're not trying to worry about breakout rooms for 8 gazillion people. And so you're just kind of continuing that work, maybe strategizing and brainstorming either on the teacher template or the student template. Okay, whatever you are ready for. And just like the teacher template, don't feel pressure to submit. This is just getting started. You will not be finishing this today, in all likelihood. So timeline on this, we're going to do another roughly 10 minutes. So at 11:15, please make sure you're ready to be unmuted or to have us start talking again and be unmuted. So during this time, I know you guys have been here for a long time. If you have a needs break, by all means, it's long overdue if you haven't done this yet, but feel free within that 10 minutes to do what you need to do. But again, the idea is you're working on either template and you're working on your plans for your unit with the 5Es.
I also have the original breakout room, so I can put you in there, and I made a couple extras. So I'll open them and you can choose whether you want to go into those breakout rooms or not.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so 11:15, we will regroup.
All right, Barbara, I think we're all back.
Okay, welcome back. Again, that was not enough time for you to finish this, so we don't expect that you have finished your student-facing template or your teacher-facing template. This was an opportunity for you to start your work there and see what it looks like. A question came up from the chat while some of us were away, so I waited to address it until now about what's the best way to start planning for the fall? And there are 2 different ways. One is you can do your work in your existing courses and then just don't publish things, so then your students won't see it, because you can copy work over from course to course. And so your courses from the spring and from last fall and from last year are all still hanging out in Canvas in your account. And you can always access those to copy material over. So they haven't gone away. The only thing that will go away eventually is the ability to update grades, but that happens after the deadline for doing incomplete grades. So you can just do your work in your current courses, and that's totally fine. If you would prefer a different method, I will try to remember to put into the chat and or put it into the course. There are courses that you can request called sandbox courses, but there's a method for requesting those, and I would really appreciate if you follow the method, because as you can maybe imagine, I'm getting inundated, and so if you just send me an email, I'll probably respond with, please use this process, because it really streamlines it for me. So I'll put that out there. It was in an email I sent a week or so ago on kind of your Canvas closeout for the end of the year. So you can access that from there as well. And what that does is you can then set up whatever you want in that Canvas course and then copy it over to your new courses once the fall semester is set up in August. So either way will work. I hope that answers that question. Okay, so now that we are back, we're not actually going to spend any time on this next piece. I'm gonna hit next here, but I want to show it to you. Oh goodness, I was trying something out and I logged out. I apologize there. So I'm going to show you what we're working towards here, but this isn't something you're necessarily going to do today or tomorrow or soon, but this is the extend piece, right? So you can extend the learning. So once you do have your teacher and or your student template completed, what a great opportunity we have here with all of the people in this session to share our resources and ideas. So what you have in the Canvas course next is a second Canvas discussion. And this Canvas discussion is set up as a give one, get one. So you can post your planning documents here in rough draft form is totally fine, or you can wait and publish something that's a little bit more polished, totally up to you. But it's a great way that you can push this out in a discussion, and then other teachers can then respond. They can look at yours, they can get ideas, comment on yours, so you can really refine your tools that you're working on. So this is an extend piece that you can work on later on. And it includes how to push something in there from your drive. So it'll give you some instructions on that. But that's something, you know, extend could be an extension task. So that's something to do later on. So I'm going to click next again. And we're getting into our session wrap up here. So hopefully in this session, let's see, I'm watching, I'm circling up here. Let's see if I can close a few things that I opened while you guys were working and see if that helps. The joy. So in this session, hopefully you learned a little bit more about the 5E lesson design. Quick wait here. And maybe exit out of a few things. Sorry about that. So you learned about some design principles in terms of increasing student engagement in an online setting by utilizing the 5E, which we used as a 7E lesson design. And then you also looked at how to use Canvas, and specifically Canvas modules, to put these elements into a little package for your students. So it's a little bit easier for them to manage. But really what this was going to come back to, and you can see it on your screens, is that same student, in this case participant-facing template, that had the checklist of all of the things that you were asked to do during this session, right? So you were asked to participate in some various activities and ultimately design some lesson templates for your students. what I really wanted to get to was we're going to come back to that same Mentimeter discussion page so that you have a final chance to reflect on equity in your own practice. So I'll let Daisy continue to speak with this.
So we are nearing the end, so we wanted to loop back around and make sure that, you know, we come back to this sixth or seventh E, as you will, our focus on equity. So we're going to go back to the Mentimeter page again. And remember, if you have always had that browser open to this page, you just click on Go to Slide. And we'd like you to add any final thoughts, maybe some things like questions that are on this page that have surfaced for you in this work. And again, the code is on the screen. It's 445222. So menti.com, code 445222. And then once we've given you a few minutes to kind of put in your final thoughts on how the 5 E's might link with equitable teaching practices, we're going to show all of the participant responses. So I'm just going to stop talking now and give you some time to reflect. All right, let's finish our final thoughts. And then Barbara, if you could kind of share what has been coming up for you all. You can take a look. I actually don't have a protocol for this, so we can just kind of scroll through. Barbara, I don't know, is it possible to share these results with everybody after the session?
Yes, I believe as long as I have it set like this, and participants can test this. If you go to this screen in Canvas and click refresh, I think you should be able to see all of the responses, and they are anonymous. We're not sharing, you know, your name or anything like that. We tested that in advance, so don't worry about that. But the intent, and I'm hoping that this will be an opportunity for you to just see what other educators are thinking, and you know, you can then respond and go back and forth. And you know, the goal is to improve the opportunities for our students and improve the situation and improve equity. And so hopefully through these conversations, we can really start to make the change in our own sphere of influence.
So I think this will still be here in the module if you want to come back to this at any point. But I just wanted to say a really quick thank you for adding this additional lens to the work that we're doing in this session. We only have 2 minutes left, so I don't want to spend too much time just like scrolling through this. So if you have extra time, come back to this definitely and take a look at what your fellow teachers have to say on equity.
Thank you so much for attending this session. We hope you're able to bring all 7 E's to your Canvas courses.